What's up, everybody? Today we're going to talk about the Mario movie, and this is actually the first episode to a whole series I have in mind. I want to specifically look at these movies as a writer, as someone who has studied film theory, script writing, or just stories in general, like narrative structures and all that, right? And just discuss, I guess, like the effectiveness, right? And the Mario movie will be the first movie that we discuss in this series. One thing that I really want to talk about are the incoherent motives within this movie. Look, and I know there's like a comedy, so like it's meant to be like a fun movie and everything. But I really do think that if you can enjoy a decent script, then that just means you can really, really value an even greater one. And to get to that better script, we have to consider these kind of motives and whether or not they're working. And it feels like that just isn't the case in this movie. For example, at Peach, like one thing I just found it odd is she really lets Mario in on this whole world and her army pretty easily. Like, I know there's kind of like a trial thing going on, but even then it just felt odd. Like, her whole world and all the people in it are at stake, and all he has to do is this kind of routine. Like, really, he just has to do the trials, and that's kind of it. Like, there's not much. I don't know, I just found it odd. Like, that's the requirement, I really do feel like that scene was kind of forced, and it was actually the incorrect scene that they're trying to do, and we'll talk about that later. But right now, let's just focus at how kind of nonchalant she was about it, right? And I feel like they do that on purpose. Like, because as long as she's kind of like, it's meant to be kind of funny, and it doesn't really... It's as if the comedy is prioritized over a good script, which would include coherent and logical motives. Like, they just completely set it aside, and I really thought that was odd. But it does happen. Like, I remember one example from like Lilo and Stitch. The whole thing was about capturing Stitch, and then they just let him go because, I think he just says like, okay, and it's like, it's a funny moment, but there's absolutely no logic to it, right? And I feel like that's happening again with Peach, where it's like she just letting Mario be part of the story and a part of the army just for the sake of doing so, and it just felt disingenuous. One thing too, later down the road, was with Donkey Kong. It made no sense that he was just okay with being with Mario. Like, it just doesn't. Like, fine, there's some friction in there. I think at one point, like, he just says that he hates Mario, and he says it in like really good timing. It's very funny, but it contributes nothing to the story, in that it's very obvious it was supposed to take kind of a different route. Like, there should be tension between them. After all, Donkey Kong was very boastful, and he seemed very confident in what he was doing, and to like just suddenly get defeated should put something different within that relationship, and yet it affects his motives in no way. Like, they just work together, and that's kind of it. It's just weird. It's bad writing, in my view. It really just is. And again, the same thing is kind of occurring, where the comedic aspect is just being privileged, as if the story doesn't matter. like this could have been improved, and it could have been its own little side thing going on, but they decided not to even deal with it, just taken away from the story itself. And here's the other incoherent motive that really just bothered me. Wow, well, why do they want to be like plumbers or whatever? Like, in the real world, being a plumber is not like, whoa, I made it. It doesn't make any sense. Like, we know that they are supposed to be plumbers because that's kind of like that's canon, but the story that they give just doesn't really connect with what's going on. Like, it just seems kind of ridiculous, really forced in. I feel just really forced. That's kind of a problem with a lot of the stuff that happened here. Just so forced. It's kind of wild. And the other thing that I really want to discuss is the tagline phrase. So tagline phrase, I think I'm pulling this from one book that I read. I completely forgot. I think it's like, I'll put it on the screen so that you know what I'm talking about. The basic idea is that you have this phrase that you repeat over and over again throughout the movie, and by doing so it gains a significance. A great one, in my opinion, is actually from Finding Nemo, Just Keep Swimming. And Mandalorian has the whole this is the way. And it's just, I do think that the reason this one is kind of a flop is that it's too general, and it doesn't feel like it genuinely connects with what's going on. Like, they say that as long as they're together, you know, whatever, as long as we're together, everything will be fine, right? They aren't together for the majority of the movie. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, if you want to build that up, well, they have to be together. You will have to see them struggle together and get through things together. Like, it just doesn't work. If anything, they seem fine without each other. Like, freaking, I mean, Mario's entering this whole new world for the first time, and he's doing really, really well. Right? The only one who was screwed was Luigi in this instance, right? I just found it so odd. If it were me, I would have completely just not have added that, or at least not separated them, which I know would have created a whole different structure in the story. So that's probably not the best route, but yeah, maybe the tagline phrase just needed something different, a different direction that actually made sense between them. Okay, now I want to talk about really anything that comes to mind. Now we're just about to go like bantering a little bit, just because, or ranting, to be honest, because it was a bad script. Like, it's a good movie. That's the difference that I want to make right now. I enjoyed the movie, but it is some bad writing. Like, let's talk about the story world specifically. Actually, before that, let's talk about that whole scene where like Mario goes through like that trial of like, you know, whatever. Earlier, I said that they were mistaken about what they're trying to do there. To me, it should have been a training scene. For whatever reason, of course, this isn't included in the story, but I think this is how it should have gone. Peach should have wanted him to be part of the army for some other reason, some actually good reason to include him, and then therefore give him proper training in the world. And then from there, we could see him kind of moving up, right? Like, he's like developing these skills because of his knowledge and building on it. And I mean, that seems what the scene was trying to do, but they did it in such a, what's the word? They diverted their own attention to what was supposed to go on. And wow, that was just, I don't know. It's like such a pivotal scene for like so many movies. Like The Matrix has a great one, and I don't see why they couldn't just do something similar here. It works, so then why not just stick to something like that? Another thing that really bothered me too, and the story world did not make sense, specifically when it came to how the power-ups were consumed. Like, there's no coherence in that. Like, some of them are actually consumed, like he has to eat the mushroom kind of thing, and the other ones you just physically touch and you're like, you got the thing. Why? That's not even a thing in the in the space of Mario. Like, all of them are just kind of touch it and you're good, and you got the power up. And then in one instance, they completely changed how this is supposed to work, in that, like the star, for instance, the star is just a one-on-one thing, right? One star equals just one power up for one person. But at the end, for whatever reason, the star kind of just splits, right? Like, metaphorically, because it is just one star, but both Mario and Luigi are able to get it. And like, those things should matter. Like, well, what's the logic that's going on behind there? Like, why is that possible there? And they're not going to break it down. Like, if they want to make more movies, and they probably will, like, what, no one's going to give an explanation to that? It just should make more sense than that, especially if you are coming from like a generation who has played the games, or even a new generation that are going to play the games. Like, they're going to be like, well, wait, in the movie it's not like that. And it doesn't create this cohesiveness that I think is important to creating a good story world. I don't know, to me it did seem, just overall, that the story was being forced. Like, some aspects were just there because they just had to be. And yeah, I feel like they could have done a better job. And even too, it's like, there again, some things just didn't make sense. It's like, the best character in this movie was Bowser for some reason, and he didn't even have the most screen time, but at least his motives made sense. He was trying to, he had a desire and a goal and everything, and it was pretty brilliant. Overall, they just made a lot of these mistakes throughout the film, and it just felt odd. I mean, I did enjoy it, but the script just wasn't good. But I don't know. You tell me. Maybe I'm being a little nitpicky. Fine, sure. You know, I feel like most people hate. Like, a lot of my friends just don't care when I say stuff like this. They're like, just enjoy the movie. The movie could have been better, is my point. You know, there's some things that are just like, I'm like, that doesn't make sense. You know, and that should have happened. That should have happened if the movie is genuinely good. You shouldn't just be like, what? But that happened a lot too. Like, what about that one thing with the whole Peach is very powerful, she could take over, like she will be able to like solve this problem? She's not doing much. She's like leveraging Mario the whole time. It's just so goofy. Like, why would you? Then don't say that. You know, that's not true. Like, it's just weird narratively. I don't know. It really felt, at least to me when I was watching this, that some of the decisions were forced. But yeah, leave a comment below. Maybe completely disagree. I don't know. These are just my thoughts, and I did offer some suggestions as what to like fix. But with this script, it would have been pretty hard because there were a lot of mistakes. Well, that's all I have to say. Have a good one.